Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. In this video I'm going to share with you the things that I did to help me successfully get pregnant 3 times with PCOS. I do want to say that I am not a medical professional and I'm not giving medical advice. I'm just speaking from my own experience and the things that I did. So let's get into it. Tip number 1, okay, give your body time. I knew, especially with my first daughter, that I wanted to have a baby. I wanted to start a family. And I knew that I was also on Depo-Provera. I had been on Depo-Provera 8 years prior to getting pregnant with my daughter. And so I ended up falling pregnant with my daughter. Or conceiving her sometime in February of 2019, and I gave birth to her in November of 2019. And so I knew all the way back in 2018 that I wanted to have a baby, and so I stopped my Depo-Provera. I believe it was February of 2018. And so stopping my Depo-Provera in February of 2018, before I got the positive for my daughter and gave birth to her, I did end up falling pregnant October of 2018, and unfortunately that pregnancy ended in a miscarriage, and then in December of 2018, and then I think it was March 5th is exactly when I found out that I was pregnant with my daughter. So I say all of that in saying it is very important to be patient with your body and give your body time to adjust, being on Depo-Provera, it can take anywhere from 4 to 18 months for your fertility to truly return in full force. So if you know that you probably want to have another child or you want to start trying to conceive, I would make sure that you plan accordingly so that you can give your body time to adjust. So if you're thinking about having another baby or trying to conceive, I would say plan accordingly, so that you can give your body time to adjust and be patient with your body. The second thing I did was I pretty much prioritized my health, and that consisted of 2 things: my diet and exercise. I noticed that anytime I had a weight loss that was right between 5 and 10%, that was my sweet spot. My reproductive organs kind of jump-started themselves and started to get back in gear. And so if I am ever going to try to actively conceive again, which I don't think I'm going to, but if I were, I would definitely be working on losing anywhere between 5 to 10% of my total body weight. When it comes to my diet, I made sure that I was eating a diet that was PCOS friendly. Basically meaning that I was avoiding a lot of sugary foods, I was avoiding overeating, I was avoiding a lot of inflammatory foods, anything that was not going to be beneficial to my body, or anything that was going to like piss off my PCOS, I stayed away from. And so basically, just to share with you guys, that consisted of me eating a lot of salads, a lot of steak. Look, some people will tell you if you have PCOS, stay away from red meat. What works for me may not work for everybody, but I know what works for me, and eating a ton of salads and cucumber salads and eating lots of steak or chuck roast, and making sure that I was eating things like, you know, avocado toast, or just having lots of healthy fats within my diet, eating lots of salmon and catfish, period. When putting that diet together with the exercise and making sure I was losing anywhere between 5 to 10% of my total body weight, that was the magic that happened for me. And that's a huge reason why I feel like I was able to naturally and successfully get pregnant with all 3 of my children while having PCOS. The third tip would be to manage your stress. I knew, especially when I had found out that I was pregnant with my son, I had noticed that at least the 7 months prior to me getting pregnant with my son, I was stressed out. I was highly stressed out. I wasn't indulging in self-care. I wasn't getting a good amount of sleep. I would say good sleep is anywhere between 7 to 9 hours, and I wasn't getting that. And it was so draining. And I noticed the month before I found out that I was pregnant with my son, I had started engaging more in my self-care. And so that meant for me to take time to do things I like to do, which was reading smutty books or crocheting, doing yoga, just taking time for me, just sitting in silence. I noticed that month I was in such like a blissful state that I had totally forgot about like actively trying to conceive. And guess what? 4 weeks later, I found out I was pregnant with my son. So again, what works for me may not work for everybody, but I do attribute the fact that I managed my stress as a part of, or a contributing factor as to why I was able to conceive. Tip number 4 would be to manage or track your menstrual cycle. I know not everyone with PCOS does have a regular cycle to be able to track. Sometimes women with PCOS can have irregular periods, and that can make it really, really hard to track cycles. I fall into that category. I will say that some people might suggest like, oh, just track your ovulation. That's not really an option for me because I spontaneously ovulate. So it's nearly impossible to track my ovulation unless I'm literally peeing on ovulation tests every single day of the year to figure out when I'm ovulating. So the doctors just said, hey, you spontaneously ovulate, and so sometimes that can make it hard to track ovulation, which is not a tip that I do, and it's not a tip that I would suggest. But what I would suggest would be to track your menstrual cycle. Being that my menstrual cycles are irregular, me tracking them when I do have them means that I can keep track of certain changes when it comes to my cervical mucus, because your cervical mucus can give you information about what's going on with your body, number 1. Number 2, we all know that PMS symptoms and pregnancy symptoms can be similar, and they share some symptoms. And so being able to track that can either give you information on, oh, this is just my normal PMS symptoms, or it can be a red flag alert to like, hey, this is not one of my normal or usual symptoms. And it could be your body's way of trying to tell you, hey, you're pregnant, go take a pregnancy test. So also, tracking your menstrual cycles, even if they are irregular, tracking them when they happen will give you a better idea of like how long your cycles are actually lasting. And it could give you a better idea of, hey, this might be a good time to time intercourse. And if anything, it can be that extra oomph, that extra documentation that you may need if you decide to go to your doctor and ask for medical intervention to help you get pregnant, such as asking your doctor to put you on Clomid or metformin or letrozole or any of those things. When you do have your cycles, even if they are irregular, being able to track them and writing that down, that's a form of documentation and can only help you if in the end you decide, hey, I need some medical intervention to help me achieve my goal. Tip number 5 is just straightforward. Stay hydrated. That is definitely going to help reproductive function. Staying hydrated is something I did on a daily basis. I was staying hydrated through tea and through water. I flavor my water so that it helps me be able to drink water. I have no shame in that. I have no shame in that whatsoever. But I feel like my reproductive health, especially when it came to my cervical mucus and cervical mucus changes when I did have them, worked wonders. So straight and simple, just stay hydrated. The next tip I have is engage in some herbal remedies. I engaged in taking herbal remedies and I feel like it tremendously helped. And so some of the things I did was I added some cinnamon to my diet. I definitely took some evening primrose oil capsules in order to like balance my hormones. Definitely drank some spearmint tea, some maca root, and yeah, amongst other things. If you guys have not seen my previous video, I will link it here. And in this video, I talk about how I manage my insulin resistance PCOS, and I have a ton of teas that I list in that video that I rotate through, that I keep in my household. And so I feel like the herbal remedies that I've tried, those teas and the things that I just named off, I feel like those also played a contributing factor into why I was able to successfully get pregnant on 3 different occasions with all 3 of my children. And the last tip that I have that I did was do acupuncture. Acupuncture may not be for everybody. Some people may be skeptical about it and whatnot, but it's something that I did and I feel like it definitely helped in regard to my PCOS tremendously. Acupuncture can increase blood flow, and that is always great because the increasing of the blood flow to the ovaries definitely helps restore the balance there. And so again, these are things that I did. It may not work for everybody. What I've done may not be successful for everybody because again, PCOS is not a one-size-fits-all condition, and we are all different, unique individuals. And so what works for one or what works for some is definitely not gonna work for all. But if you are going down the list and you're just like, hey, what's something I haven't tried, I would highly suggest trying acupuncture. And so with that being said, those are my tips that I feel helped me successfully get pregnant on 3 different occasions with my 3 children. Hopefully this video was encouraging or motivating or helpful to someone else who may be on their trying to conceive journey, knowing that they have PCOS, or who has been newly diagnosed with PCOS. And with that being said, I will definitely see you on the next video.